At the beginning of the drama, we see the male lead Gushun, who creates a game and is watching the competition of that game. On the other side, we see Yue Qian, who is playing the game. Gushun was not sure at all that Yue Qian would win, but Yue Qian wins the game. Seeing this, Gushun feels happy. Then Gushun finds out that Sticky Dog is also there. Sticky Dog is none other than Yue Qian herself. Gushun goes looking for her, but he doesn't find her. In the next scene, we see that Gushun had rejected an offer from a company. His friends ask him, "Why did you reject the offer from that company?" Gushun says, "This company is not suitable for the kind of game I want to create." On the other side, we see Yue Qian, who had submitted her resignation letter. Her team members ask her, "Are you really resigning?" She says, "Yes. Actually, I was fed up because of my team leader, so I am resigning." Then her team leader asks her to have a farewell party, but she refuses. Then she goes to get a stamp on her resignation letter when Gushun arrives there. Seeing him, she is left staring. Gushun says, "I am new here and today is my first day." Then he leaves. Yue Qian watches him go, but then she remembers that her resignation letter is about to be stamped. She tries to stop it, but the stamp gets put on. Then Yue Qian feels very bad, and she calls her friend and tells her everything. "Today Gushun came to the company just when I had resigned." Her friend says, "He had been missing for 2 months. How did he turn up now?" So Yue Qian says, "I had been looking for him for 2 months and he shows up now that I have resigned." Then we are shown a scene from 2 months ago, where Yue Qian was playing a game with her friends and Gushun was on the opposite team. Both were trying to win against each other, and Gushun wins. When Yue Qian saw him for the first time, she was left staring and couldn't say anything. Then she says to her friend, "How can someone be so handsome?" Her friend says, "Yes, he is really very handsome." Hearing this, Yue Qian feels happy. Then the present scene is shown, where Yue Qian takes her things and leaves. On this side, Gushun is in a meeting where he is told, "You will be given 1 month in which you have to get 50% approval for your game. If this doesn't happen, you will have to leave." Gushun says, "Okay." Then he demands some things for his game, so they tell him, "We will provide you everything." After the meeting, Gushun meets Zhang and says to him, "I didn't know you work here." Zhang says, "Did you come here to waste time?" Then Zhang says, "Before this, the company you worked with, you didn't complete your game there either, and I think you'll leave here soon too." Then Gushun and his friends go to see the office, but everything there is in very bad condition. They think they need to fix it and plan to hire a new team for their project. Gushun's friend asks him, "How much salary will you give them?" Gushun says, "I will give them the highest salary in the company." Then the friend asks, "How much salary will I get?" Gushun smiles and says, "You will not get any salary. You will work for free until our project gets approved." The friend thinks for a while, but then agrees to work for free. On the other side, Yue Qian goes to a place to play games. There, she plays the game and wins. Then she sees Gushun there. Yue Qian takes many tokens and goes to him and says, "I am giving free tokens," but Gushun doesn't pay attention to her words. At that moment, Yue Qian's tokens fall down. Both bend down to pick up the tokens, and their hands touch. After that, Yue Qian turns to the other side. When she turns back, she sees the shop owner there. The shop owner says to Yue Qian, "Today you took a lot of tokens." Yue Qian says, "Yes, but now I am going to return these tokens." In the next scene, Gushun and his friends are waiting for Sticky Dog to come online so they can play the game with her. Gushun's friend asks him, "Why do you only play the game with Sticky Dog?" Gushun replies, "You guys don't play the game well, and Sticky Dog plays very well. That's why I play the game with her." But in fact, Gushun had started liking Sticky Dog, but he didn't know that Sticky Dog was none other than Yue Qian. Then everyone in the group sends messages to each other and asks Sticky Dog to come online. Meanwhile, when Yue Qian comes to her room, her mother comes to meet her. Her mother says, "You didn't participate in the last exam, so now you have to take this exam." Hearing this, Yue Qian says, "Okay." After her mother leaves, Yue Qian angrily tells her friend, "You have trapped me. How will I take the exam now?" On the other side, the teacher goes to Gushun and his friends and tells them to take the exam. Then, Yue Qian sends a message to Gushun in the group and comes online. After that, everyone plays the game together. While playing the game, Yue Qian tells her online friends, "I like a boy." Hearing this, Gushun doesn't feel happy at all, but when Yue Qian says, "That boy doesn't like me," Gushun feels relieved that he still has a chance. In the next scene, Yue Qian goes on a bus and sees Gushun there. She asks her online friend, who is actually Gushun, "I am in front of that boy. How should I talk to him?" Gushun, as her online friend, says, "Go to him and ask what he is doing." Yue Qian does exactly that and asks Gushun, "What are you doing?" Gushun says, "I am driving." Hearing this, Yue Qian realizes she asked the wrong question. Then Gushun puts his bag on the seat next to him so that Yue Qian can't sit there, and she goes to sit on another seat. Then, Yue Qian goes to the office and bumps into Gushun in the elevator. She thinks Gushun has held the elevator for her, but in fact, Gushun has held the elevator for his friend. When the elevator door closes, Yue Qian's hair gets stuck in it. Gushun helps her and removes her hair. After this, Yue Qian tries to talk to him, but Gushun ignores her words. In the next scene, Yue Qian meets Mrs. Ren and requests, "Can I be reinstated to my job?" But Mrs. Ren says, "Once someone leaves the job, they are not taken back. Still, I will try for you." At that moment, there is a problem in the company which Gushun comes and solves. Yue Qian is surprised to see him. Just then, her friend comes to her and asks, "Is this the one you like?" Yue Qian blushes and says, "Yes, he is." Then, Yue Qian is at home when she receives a message from her friend, "We need to practice the dance, come over." Yue Qian goes to meet her friend. There, she holds her friend's hand and says, "We will tell the teacher that we practiced so much that we fell ill. Because of this, we won't have to participate in the function, and we will still pass." But when Yue Qian turns around, she sees Gushun there. Seeing him, Yue Qian gets shocked. Then, going back, she angrily tells her friend, "You called me there and didn't come yourself." In the next scene, Yue Qian is giving an interview. The boss there is quite impressed with her. But just then, Mrs. Ren's call comes, saying, "We have reinstated you to your job." Yue Qian makes an excuse and leaves from there. The boss tries to stop her, but she doesn't stop. On the other side, Gushun is also interviewing people for his team. Then, everyone practices the lion dance. During the practice, Gushun and Yue Qian become a team. Yue Qian gets tired and stops while practicing. But the teacher says to her, "You cannot stop. Keep practicing." The next morning, Yue Qian goes to get her appointment letter. Mrs. Ren advises her, "Don't repeat such behavior because an opportunity comes only once, not repeatedly." Yue Qian assures her, "I won't do such a thing again." Taking the appointment letter, she is about to leave when a girl comes to Mrs. Ren and says, "These are the documents. Gushun needs to sign them." Mrs. Ren says, "I always have to go to Gushun to get the signatures." Hearing this, Yue Qian says, "Give them to me, I will get the signatures." Mrs. Ren gives her the documents and says, "Make sure to get all the documents signed by Gushun." Yue Qian says, "Okay, I will get them done." Yue Qian goes to Gushun's office with the documents. The documents fall from her hands. As she starts picking them up, Gushun comes forward to help, but she says, "No, I will pick them up myself." After picking up the documents, she goes to Gushun and asks him to sign them. Gushun flatly refuses and says, "Tell Mrs. Ren to come and get the signatures herself if she needs them." Hearing this, Yue Qian gets angry and leaves. Returning to the office, she is told that she will have to do her old job again, and if the work is not done properly, she will be fired. She is given the task of creating a new character, which has to be completed within 3 days. Yue Qian goes to her desk and starts working. The day passes, and it becomes night, but she is still working. She cannot come up with an idea for the character. Tired, she messages Gushun. They talk, and from Gushun's words, Yue Qian gets a brilliant idea of what the character should be like. Then Jiang is scolding his team, "You guys are working too slowly." Meanwhile, Gushun asks his team members for new ideas. When he hears their ideas, he is happy because their ideas are quite impressive. At night, Yue Qian is working in her office when she gets a call from her friend. The friend asks, "When will you come home?" Yue Qian replies, "I have an important task and I have to finish it at all costs. I found out that Gushun is still hiring people in his department. I want to complete my task quickly and join his department." Then Yue Qian goes outside the office and sees a dog. She starts playing with it. Just then, Gushun arrives. Seeing him come, Yue Qian pretends to be scared of the dog, but Gushun ignores her and walks away. Then a bike comes rushing. Yue Qian immediately picks up the dog, and at the same moment, Gushun comes forward and pulls Yue Qian away from the bike. Yue Qian says, "Thank you for saving me." But Gushun says, "I saved the dog, not you." Then Yue Qian says, "I heard you are hiring people for your department. I want to work in your department too." But Gushun says, "I think you are not loyal to your department." Saying this, he leaves. The next day, when Zhang sees the character created by Yue Qian, he asks her for details about it. Yue Qian explains the character to him in detail, and Zhang selects her character. Knowing this, Yue Qian can't believe her character got selected. Then everyone praises her work. Yue Qian messages Gushun and asks him to play the game at 7 o'clock, but Gushun refuses and says, "I am busy right now." Seeing this message, Gushun's friend says to him, "What if Sticky Dog likes you too?" Gushun says, "I don't know, but I like her." Then Yue-chan is outside the elevator trying to get her cream out, but it doesn't come out. Yue-chan thinks, I haven't even used it, so how did it finish so quickly? Just then, Gushun arrives, and Yue-chan stands up properly as soon as she sees him. As they are going into the elevator, Gushun starts screaming because of the smell of Yue-chan's cream. Seeing this, Yue-chan thinks, from now on, I won't do anything that bothers Gushun. She wanted to talk to Gushun, but he ignores her and leaves. In the next scene, they both come for practice, and Yue-chan brings a filled pot and wears a coat. Gushun asks her, what is this? Yue-chan says, the other one is too heavy for me to lift, so I brought this one so we can practice easily. They both practice, but during practice, Yue-chan falls down the stairs. Yue-chan says, we won't practice anymore. I got hurt. As Gushun is about to leave, Yue-chan is getting up. Just then, she falls into the pot. Trying to get out of the pot, she slips again, and Gushun catches her and saves her. Yue-chan asks, are you okay? Gushun tells her to get up. When they get up, Gushun's shoulder hurts. Yue-chan says, you should see a good doctor. Gushun says, not me, you should see a good brain doctor. In the next scene, Gushun and Jiang are both giving their presentations and explaining their games. They are then asked to wait outside. After a while, they are called back in and the results are announced. Stella tells Gushun, your project is very good and your project has been selected. Hearing this, Gushun is very happy and Jiang leaves. Then Gushun messages in the group saying, I am very happy today. Then Gushun, with his team, comes to Yue-chan's department, and now he will also work there. Yue-chan is very happy about all this. The other people also say, Gu will surely achieve something. In the next scene, everyone is eating when Gushun also arrives. The people invite him to sit with them. Gushun sits there and starts messaging his online friend, Sticky Dog. Sticky Dog tells him, I came for dinner at a place. From her words, Gushun becomes suspicious of Yue-chan. He looks at Yue-chan and asks her, do you like fighting games? Yue-chan thinks, if I tell him that I like fighting games, I don't know what he will think about me. So Yue-chan says, no, I don't like fighting games. This makes Gushun think that she is not Sticky Dog. Then Yue-chan and Gushun are going home. Gushun says to Yue-chan, it is very late. You won't get a taxi. Let me drop you off. So Yue-chan goes with him. On the way, she asks Gushun strange questions. Gushun tells her, if you don't know what to talk about, then stay quiet. In the next scene, there is a dance competition between Gushun and Yue-chan. The other team is also performing there, but Yue-chan performs very poorly in this competition. Because of this, Gushun feels very bad in front of everyone. Later, when the result is announced, Gushun and Yue-chan's team loses. Because of this, Gushun gets angry and leaves. After he leaves, Yue-chan says, "Can I fix all this?" Her friend says, "No, nothing can be done now." Then Yue-chan is in the office and clicks her selfies. She also takes a selfie of Gushun. Then she looks at Gushun's pictures and says, "How can anyone be so cute?" When she turns around, she sees that Gushun is standing behind her. He asks her, "What are you doing?" She makes an excuse and leaves. Then Gushun meets Wei and says to him, "Now that you are working with us, if you want to keep someone with you, you can." Wei says, "I want to keep Yue-chan with me because she does very good work." Then Yue-chan is coming into the elevator when she meets Wei. Wei says, "I am hiring some people for my department. If you want to work with us, submit some of your created characters so that we can select you." Yue-chan says, "Okay, I will submit them." Then Yue-chan creates some characters, but she thinks that they are not good enough. She is coming into the elevator while reading Gushun's conditions about what kind of characters he needs. Just then, Gushun and Jun are also standing behind her. Jun says, "It seems she wants to work in our department, and that's why she wants to submit her characters to us, but she hasn't completed her work yet." Gushun says, "She only has until tomorrow. If she doesn't complete her work on time, we won't select her." Then Yue-chan looks at her characters and is unsure what to do. She has very little time left. Finally, Yue-chan completes her work. As she is about to send her work to Gushun, her department's internet is not working, and she gets worried. So she copies her work onto a USB and goes to show it to Gushun. When Yue-chan arrives there, she says to Gushun, "I have completed my work." Gushun says, "You should have submitted it on time." Then he tells her to leave. Yue-chan requests, but Gushun doesn't listen and tells her to leave again. Yue-chan leaves sadly. In the next scene, Yue-chan brings some food for Gushun. There she sees Gushun with a girl, and Gushun is saying to the girl, "I have a girlfriend." Hearing this, Yue-chan becomes very sad, goes back to her room, lies on the bed, and starts crying. Her friend asks her, "What happened?" She tells her that Gushun has a girlfriend. The next day, Yue-chan's friend tells her everyone is going to hang out somewhere. At first, Yue-chan refuses, but later she agrees to go. There, Yue-chan meets Jun and asks, "Who is Gushun's girlfriend?" Jun says, Gu Shun doesn't have a girlfriend. Yue Qian is surprised and says, but I heard him telling a girl that he has a girlfriend. Jun says, no, he doesn't have a girlfriend. It's just his way of making excuses. Hearing this, Yue Qian becomes very happy. Then Jun asks her, why are you so happy? Yue Qian smiles and says, nothing. Then she leaves. In the next scene, everyone is at a masquerade party. Yue Qian arrives there and starts looking for Gu Shun. She sees a boy who she thinks is Gu Shun. Then a competition starts there. Yue Qian participates in the competition with the boy, and they both win. After the competition, it is announced, the winners will have to kiss each other. At first, Yue Qian is very excited to hear this, but as soon as the boy removes his mask, Yue Qian sees that he is not Gu Shun. She is shocked to see this. Everyone tells her to kiss him, but Yue Qian refuses. Then they are told, if you don't want to kiss, you will have to touch each other's nose. Yue Qian finds this very awkward. Just then, Gu Shun arrives and handles the situation. Gu Shun touches the boy's nose. Seeing this, Yue Qian is very happy that Gu Shun saved her. Then she is in her room and is very happy. Her friend asks her, why are you so happy? Yue Qian smiles and says, nothing. Then Yue Qian goes out of her room and sees that Gu Shun and the boy are coming together. Both have had quite a drink and are trying to hold each other up. Just then, Gu Shun is about to fall. Yue Qian tries to hold Gu Shun, but she also falls to the ground with Gu Shun. Gu Shun falls asleep there, and Yue Qian, seeing him so close, feels very happy. The next morning, when Gu Shun wakes up, his friend tells him, you drank a lot last night and Yue Qian left you here. But Gu Shun doesn't remember anything. The next day, Yue Qian and Gu Shun are playing a game. Yue Qian says, I am very happy today. Gu Shun asks her, why are you so happy? Yue Qian blushes and says, yesterday I got very close to my crush. Then she says excitedly, now I will confess my love to him very soon. Gu Shun tells this to Jun. Jun says, if he says yes to her, then what will happen to you? Gu Shun says, I am sure that Sticky Dog will reject that boy. After this graduation day arrives, everyone is very happy because they all graduate. Then they all take pictures and have fun. Gu Shun's friend puts a mic on him because he has to give the graduation speech. When Gu Shun is leaving, Yue Qian comes to him and confesses her love. But Gu Shun, in front of everyone, rejects her. Gu Shun has a mic on, so everyone hears him. Gu Shun says, I don't like you, and I will never like you in the future. Saying this, he leaves. Hearing this, Yue Qian becomes very sad. Then Yue Qian is standing somewhere. From a distance, Gu Shun and Jun are watching her. Gu Shun says to Jun, you go and give her an umbrella. How will she go home in the rain? Jun goes to give the umbrella, but Yue Qian says to him, I don't need anyone's help. Then she walks away in the rain. In the next scene, everyone is playing a game. Just then, Yue Qian says, I confessed my love to my crush, but he rejected me in front of everyone. Everyone asks Yue Qian, who is it? Yue Qian replies, it is Gu Shun. I like him a lot, but he rejected me in front of everyone. Hearing this, everyone is quite shocked, and Gu Shun also realizes that Sticky Dog is none other than Yue Qian. Then he falls to the ground and tells his friends, I should tell her everything. His friends stop him and say, if you tell her everything, she will get even angrier. She is already in a bad mood. First, win her heart, then find the right moment to tell her everything. Gu Shun thinks for a while and says, okay, I will do that. On the other hand, Yue Qian is drinking with her friend and is very sad. Just then a boy comes up to her and says, can I have your WeChat ID? Yue Qian lets him sit beside her and says, you shouldn't be doing this at your age. You should focus on your studies. The boy says, if you want to give your WeChat ID, give it, otherwise don't lecture me. Saying this, he leaves. Then Gu Shun is going in the elevator with his friend and is very sad. Just then, Yue Qian enters the elevator. When Gu Shun sees her, he stands up straight, but Yue Qian ignores him and leaves. Gu Shun also follows her. Then Yue Qian is getting a stamp on a document. Gu Shun stands behind her, but Yue Qian ignores him again and leaves. Then Gu Shun tries to stop her and talk, but Yue Qian says, from now on, we will only talk about work. Saying this, she leaves. In the next scene, Yue Qian is looking for a house. She likes a house very much and rents it for herself. Then it is shown that Gu Shun is also renting a house next to hers. In the next scene, Gu Shun and Jun are coming down the stairs with some things when they see that someone has moved into the house in front. Jun says, someone has moved into the house next to yours. Let's go meet them. But Gu Shun says, I don't want to meet them. As they are leaving, the elevator door opens, and it is Yue Qian. Gu Shun asks her, what are you doing here? Yue Qian says, I rented a house here. Jun says, now you two are neighbors. Hearing this, Yue Qian gets angry. Gu Shun says, let me help you. Yue Qian says, I don't need your help. Then she goes inside her house angrily and closes the door. Then Gu Shun goes near Yue Qian's house and thinks about knocking on the door, but he doesn't and sends Jun to knock instead. Jun knocks on the door, and when Yue Qian opens it, she hits him with a cloth and then closes the door and goes inside. Jun says to Gu Shun, you knew she would do this, yet you sent me? Gu Shun says, yes. Then Yue Qian tries to turn on her AC, but it doesn't work, and her remote isn't working. She calls the landlord and says, the AC remote isn't working. The landlord says, take the remote from your neighbor. The AC is the same, so their remote will work. But Yue Qian angrily says, I will never take the remote from him. She lies down in the heat. And later, Gu Shun and Yue Qian talk to each other online. Yue Qian says, my AC remote isn't working, and it's very hot. The landlord told me to take the remote from the neighbor, but I will never take the remote from that neighbor. Then Gu Shun himself takes the remote to Yue Qian's house and knocks on the door. Yue Qian asks him, why did you come here? Gu Shun says, the landlady told me your AC isn't working, so I came to fix it. Then Yue Qian opens the door and Gu Shun checks her AC and fixes it. He also sets the AC with his remote. Yue Qian is surprised and says, if you had the remote, why didn't you give it to me earlier? And takes the remote from him. Gu Shun tries to talk to her, but she throws him out of the house. Then Yue Qian is playing a game at a place. Gu Shun goes to her and says, I saw your work. You do very good work. Will you work with us? Yue Qian flatly refuses. Gu Shun tries to persuade her many times, but Yue Qian refuses and walks away. Then Yue Qian calls her friend and tells her, today, Gu Shun came to meet me and asked me to work with him. I also want to work with him. Her friend says, if you want to work with him, then go. There's no issue with that. Then Yue Qian goes to pick up a parcel. Gu Shun also comes to receive his parcel. Yue Qian's parcel is quite big, so Gu Shun says to her, let me help you. But Yue Qian refuses. As she is taking the parcel, Gu Shun also walks with her. On the way, a lady sees Yue Qian and starts scolding Gu Shun. The lady says, she is carrying such a big parcel and you are not helping her? Seeing Gu Shun getting scolded, Yue Qian feels happy, but then the parcel starts slipping. Gu Shun saves the parcel from falling and saves Yue Qian too. Then Gu Shun carries her parcel, and they go behind the building to place the parcel. Yue Qian says, I ordered this house for the dog that lives here. Now I have to assemble it. Gu Shun says, you go, I will assemble it. Then he starts building the doghouse, and while working, it gets late at night. Yue Qian is watching him from upstairs. Then she calls her friend and tells her, today I'm getting Gu Shun to do some work for me. Suddenly it starts to rain, and Yue Qian goes to him with an umbrella. But when she arrives, she sees that Gu Shun is not there. As soon as Yue Qian turns around, she sees Gu Shun coming with an umbrella from behind. Then Yue Qian helps him, and they both finish building the doghouse together. When Gu Shun finishes his work, he says to Yue Qian, I want you to work with me. Think about it carefully. Yue Qian listens to him and leaves. When he turns back, he sees that Yue Qian has already left. In the next scene, Yue Qian meets Jiang and tells him, I want to join Gu Shun's department. But Jiang refuses. Yue Qian keeps bothering him and says, if you don't let me work in Gu Shun's department, I'll keep bothering you like this. Hearing this, Jiang agrees and gives her permission to join Gu Shun's department. After that, Yue Qian goes to Gu Shun and tells him, Jiang has given permission and now I'll work in both departments. Yue Qian goes to drink water on the side, but Gu Shun stops her because the LED is on and his gaming account is open on it. Gu Shun doesn't want Yue Qian to see his account, so he stops her. Yue Qian says to Gu Shun, I was just going to drink water, but Gu Shun goes forward and brings her a water bottle. Then he opens the bottle and gives it to Yue Qian and says, I was just going to give you the bottle open. After drinking water, when Yue Qian is going back to her side, Gu Shun pulls her aside, bringing them close to each other. Just then, Jun arrives and turns his face to the other side, saying, I didn't see anything. Yue Qian then leaves. After Yue Qian leaves, Gu Shun turns off the LED and says, today I almost got caught. Then when Yue Qian is working at home, she remembers the scene when she got close to Gu Shun. Remembering all this, she falls asleep and sees the same things in her dreams. In the next scene, everyone is in a meeting, and Gu Shun is telling everyone about his game. Yue Qian writes down everything because she needs to create a character, so she thinks of collecting ideas from everyone and creating the character accordingly. After that, Gu Shun introduces Yue Qian to everyone and says, this is our new artist who has come from Jiang's team. Then he says to Yue Qian, from today, you will work under Fan. Fan then asks her about the character, and Yue Qian tells everyone about her character. Fan says, this is not good at all. And everyone else also says, what kind of artist have they hired who doesn't even fit our theme? Then Jun handles the situation saying, your idea is good. but it needs improvement. Then outside, Shinyi shows Yue-chan her table and says, "You have to sit here." Then Fan calls Yue-chan and says, "Get your work checked after you complete it, and if your work isn't good," then Yue-chan interrupts and says, "If my work isn't good, I'll leave from here." Gushun overhears this from behind and thinks, that day, Yue-chan was late in submitting her work, and that's why Fan was hired. And now Fan is scolding Yue-chan so much. Just then, Jun also arrives and says, "If you hadn't dismissed Yue-chan that day, this wouldn't be happening to her today." Then, at night, when Gushun is going home, he sees that everyone has left, but Yue-chan is still working. Then he also leaves from there and waits for Yue-chan at home. When Yue-chan comes home, he throws flowers at her from above, but she doesn't notice at all. But when she sees the flowers, she picks one up and keeps it with her. And when she looks up, Gushun becomes quiet. Then Yue-chan is in the office thinking about something. Shinyi comes to her and asks, "What are you thinking?" Yue-chan says, "I used to think I was a great artist, but now it feels like I don't know anything." Later that night, Gushun waits for Yue-chan. When he sees her coming, he remains silent. As soon as Yue-chan arrives, he approaches her. Yue-chan asks, "What are you doing?" He says, "I am jogging." Yue-chan says, "It's 3 a.m. and you are jogging?" Then he asks her, "How are you?" Yue-chan says, "I was working at the office until 3 a.m., so how do you think I am?" Then she leaves, and Gushun follows her. Then he messages her online and asks, "Have you gone to sleep?" Yue-chan says, "No, I am making noodles." Then he tells her about some books. Gamers should read these books, they can be quite helpful. Yue-chan says, "I will read these books too." In the next scene, Yue-chan goes to the library to get those books. As soon as she is about to pick a book, Gushun takes it. Then she reaches for another book, and Gushun takes that one too. As soon as Yue-chan is about to take that book from him, she falls on him and then leaves saying, "What's your problem?" She goes to pick another book, but Gushun takes that one too. Yue-chan says to him, "Are you annoying me on purpose?" Gushun says, "If you want these books, you will have to drive a car for me." Yue-chan agrees. Then she drives the car but doesn't know how to drive, so she drives very poorly. Because of this, Gushun gets very scared and asks her to stop the car, but she doesn't. Then a red signal comes, so she stops the car. She takes the books home and reads them all night. The next day, Yue-chan comes to the office and shows her drawing to Wei. Wei says, "This drawing is good, but the weapon should be changed." Yue-chan says, "I have tried both big and small weapons, but none of them looks good." Wei says, "Today, Professor Wang has a lecture on weapons, and you should attend it." Yue-chan says, "Okay, I will attend his lecture." On the other hand, Gushun meets Professor Wang and gets a ticket for Yue-chan. Yue-chan reaches the lecture and tries to get a ticket, but doesn't get one. Just then, a guy named Su Jung, who works with Yue-chan at the office, comes and asks, "Are you here to listen to the lecture?" Yue-chan says, "Yes, but I don't have a ticket." Su Jung says, "I'll arrange a ticket for you," and leaves. Just then, Gushun arrives to give Yue-chan a ticket, but Su Jung comes back and tells Yue-chan, "Your ticket has been arranged." Yue-chan goes inside to attend the lecture. After entering, Yue-chan gets a seat at the front, while Su Jung gets a seat at the back. Su Jung is surprised and thinks, how did Yue-chan get a front seat? The lecture begins, and Gushun is watching Yue-chan from above. After the lecture, Gushun says to Yue-chan, "Let's go, I'll drop you home." But just then, Su Jung arrives, and Yue-chan leaves with him. While driving, Su Jung says to Yue-chan, "Gushun arranged the ticket for you." But Yue-chan doesn't believe it. When Yue-chan gets home, Gushun messages her online and says, "Let's play a game." But Yue-chan replies, "I'm not feeling well, I won't play." Gushun says to Yue-chan, "You should go to the hospital." But Yue-chan says, "No, it's raining. I have ordered medicine, and once it arrives, I will take it and go to sleep." Yue-chan then calls the delivery person who says, "Your medicine isn't here yet? I will bring it as soon as it arrives." Hearing this, Yue-chan lies down with a blanket. After a while, there is a knock on Yue-chan's door. When she goes to check, it's the delivery boy. But the delivery is not for Yue-chan, it's for Gushun. Yue-chan decides to take the delivery to Gushun's house. When she gets there, Yue-chan knocks on Gushun's door, but it doesn't open. Just then, Gushun comes from behind. Yue-chan asks him, "Where were you?" Gushun says, "I went jogging," but in reality, he had gone to get medicine for Yue-chan. Gushun hides the medicine behind him. Yue-chan asks him, "What are you hiding behind you?" Gushun says, "Nothing." Yue-chan tries to see, and Gushun tries to stop her. During this, they get close to each other. Gushun says, "You are very warm." Yue-chan says, "Yes, I have a fever." Then she runs back to her house and checks, "I am really warm." After a while, Gushun comes to Yue-chan's house and says, "Can I borrow your hairdryer? Mine is broken." Yue-chan gives him the hairdryer. Then Gushun says, I have medicine if you want, you can take it. Yue Qian agrees and goes to his house with him. There, Gu Shun gives all the medicine to Yue Qian. Then Gu Shun goes to the kitchen to get water for Yue Qian, and Yue Qian is looking around his house. Just then, Yue Qian sees a book and finds the same ticket for the lecture. Yue Qian immediately understands that Gu Shun had arranged the ticket for her. She puts the book back. Then she sees the receipt for the medicine and realizes that Gu Shun had just brought the medicine and wonders how he knew she had a fever. Yue Qian thinks, I only told my online friend about the fever, so how did he know? Then Yue Qian thinks, is he my online friend? And becomes suspicious of Gu Shun. Then she is playing a game and also calls Gu Shun to talk and asks about the medicine. Gu Shun talks to her, and Yue Qian thinks, he is talking to me, so how can he be my online friend? In reality, Gu Shun's friend was playing the game using his ID. The next morning when Yue Qian wakes up, she is still confused about whether Gu Shun is her online friend. She tries to find out by messaging him. When she's going to the office, she notices Gu Shun and sees the game on his mobile in the car. She asks him for his game ID, and Gu Shun gives her a fake ID. In the next scene, everyone is in the meeting room, and Yue Qian presents her character, which impresses everyone. Fan closes his tab because his work isn't good. In the next scene, everyone goes to a party. There, a guy takes a picture with Yue Qian, but she doesn't like his touch at all, so she leaves with her friend. Then Yue Qian drinks a lot at the party. Gu Shun messages her and asks where she is, and she tells him, I am at a party and drinking. Gu Shun sees the picture of Yue Qian with the guy and sends it to Jun, asking, who is this? Jun tells him, he is not a good guy at all. Hearing this, Gu Shun heads to the party. Meanwhile, when Yue Qian is going to the washroom, the guy starts bothering her. Just then, Gu Shun arrives and hits the guy and takes Yue Qian away from there. Then Gu Shun and Yue Qian are leaving, and Yue Qian sobers up. Yue Qian asks Gu Shun, how did you know I was here and that I had been drinking? I told this to my online friend, so how did you know? Then Yue Qian says, I know you are my online friend. Gu Shun tries to explain, but she starts hitting him because she remembers when she confessed her love to Gu Shun, but he rejected her. Then she angrily starts to leave, but Gu Shun puts her in the car and tries to talk to her. But she says to him, I don't want to talk to you. Saying this, she leaves. When she gets into the elevator, Gu Shun also comes in, but she doesn't talk to him there either. Then she sees that Gu Shun's parcel has arrived at her house, so she throws it hard at Gu Shun's door. When Gu Shun comes out, he sees his parcel on the ground, completely broken. Then Gu Shun sees that Yue Qian has blocked him everywhere. Then he gets a call from Jun, who asks him, what happened? Seeing the injury on Gu Shun's neck, Gu Shun says, Yue Qian found out the truth and hit me. Jun says, she is so cruel. Gu Shun says, don't call my future wife cruel, and then cuts the call. Then he goes to the balcony where Yue Qian is shouting loudly, Gu Shun, I won't spare you. Then Yue Qian is making coffee for herself when Gu Shun comes and tries to help her. But Yue Qian makes something else instead of coffee and leaves, leaving Gu Shun watching. After that, Yue Qian goes to get a sandwich, but there are no sandwiches. Just then, Gu Shun comes and tries to give her his sandwich, but Yue Qian refuses and takes some other food. Then Gu Shun brings snacks for everyone, and Xinyi keeps Yue Qian's favorite snacks with her. Later, she gives those snacks to Yue Qian. At first, Yue Qian eats them, but when she finds out that Gu Shun brought those snacks, she thinks, how did I eat Gu Shun's snacks? And starts to vomit. In the next scene, Gu Shun and Yue Qian are in the office, and Gu Shun is following Yue Qian, asking her, what do I have to do to apologize? Yue Qian says, jump down from here. Then Gu Shun starts to jump, but Yue Qian stops him. Gu Shun says, tell me, what do I have to do for you to forgive me? Yue Qian says, it's almost time for the meeting, you should go to the meeting. Then everyone is in the meeting discussing the character created by Yue Qian, which Fan has made some changes to. The character gets selected. After the meeting, Gu Shun comes out and Yue Qian is watching him, but Gu Shun leaves. Then Fan comes and tells her that their character has been selected. Hearing this, Yue Qian is very happy. Then Gu Shun, Jun, and Yue Qian are eating together. Yue Qian orders her favorite food, which Gu Shun doesn't like at all. Still, he watches her eat it. When Yue Qian feels the spice, Gu Shun offers her water, but Yue Qian doesn't take it from him. Then Gu Shun signals Jun to give her water, and Jun gives it to her. Yue Qian takes the water and thanks him. Then Xinyi is talking to her landlady, who is asking her to vacate the house. Xinyi says, how will I find a new house so quickly? Just then, Yue Qian comes and tells the landlady, we will vacate the house, just return the money. Then Yue Qian says to Xinyi, you can stay with me until you find a new house. Xinyi says, you are very kind. In the next scene, Gu Shun brings a drink for Yue Qian. When he knocks on the door, Xinyi opens it. Gu Shun asks her, what are you doing here? She says, I am staying here for a few days. Then he calls Yue Qian and gives her the drink, saying, I brought this for you. Yue Qian says to Xinyi, Shinyi, he brought this for you, you take it. Shinyi says, no, it's for you. Then Gushun gives the drink to Shinyi. The next meeting happens, where Gushun and Jiang both present their games, and both presentations are very good. But Gushun's presentation is the best, and everyone likes it, including Yue Qian, who is very happy for Gushun. After the meeting, Jiang calls Yue Qian to his cabin and says, you have done a lot of work for Gushun's team. Now you have to work for my team too. Yue Qian says, okay, I will do my best. When she goes outside, her friend asks, what did Jiang say? She says, not much, just gave me some work. In the next scene, everyone is celebrating. Shinyi tells Yue Qian, I found a new house, I will move there. Yue Qian says, I will miss you a lot. Then they are enjoying, and Gushun says to Yue Qian, you should leave Jiang's team and join mine. Everyone else is saying the same. Yue Qian says, okay, I will see. Just then, Jiang comes and says to Yue Qian, you are enjoying with these people and ignoring our work. Have you completed your work? Gushun says, work time is over now. Then a fight starts between them. Everyone tries to stop them from fighting. After that, when Yue Qian and Gushun are going home, Gushun is very drunk. Yue Qian is trying to handle him. Then she searches for the car keys. Gushun says to her, why are you touching me? She says, I am not touching you. I am looking for the car keys. Gushun says, okay, find them. Then she finds the car keys and forces Gushun into the car. Then she also gets into the car. As she is putting the seatbelt on Gushun, she gets very close to him. Gushun says to her, what are you doing? She says, I am putting on the seatbelt. Then Yue Qian takes advantage of Gushun being drunk and says, you owe me 5 million. When will you give it? Gushun says, I'll give it to you tomorrow. Yue Qian says, you also give me your car and house. Gushun says, why would I give you my car and house? Yue Qian says, even after drinking so much, you're not forgetting your belongings. Gushun says, no, I won't give you the car and house. We both will stay in it together. In the next scene, Gushun and his team are having a meeting, but Yue Qian is not there. She is in the other department. Gushun says to his team, if our work is good, I will give bonuses to all team members and promote them. Hearing this, all team members become happy. On the other side, Yue Qian is also in Jiang's meeting, explaining documents on her laptop. Suddenly, Jun messages her and tells her, Gushun said he will promote his team members and give them bonuses. All these messages appear on the screen, and everyone reads them. When Yue Qian realizes this, she quickly closes her laptop. Then Jiang says, Gushun has made a good plan, promoting his workers, so we will also promote. We will promote Yue Qian. But Yue Qian thinks, how did all this happen? Later, when both are returning from the office at night, as they come out of the elevator, Yue Qian sees a cockroach. She jumps onto Gushun and says, I am scared of cockroaches. Just then, her mother comes out of the house. Seeing her mother, Yue Qian says to Gushun, put me down. Gushun puts her down. Her mother asks Yue Qian, who is this? Is he your boyfriend? Yue Qian says, no, he is not my boyfriend. He is my boss. Then Yue Qian's mother hits her and says, you are lying to me. If he is your boss, why did he carry you? Yue Qian says, there was a cockroach and I was scared of it, so he carried me. Then she takes her mother inside. The next morning when Yue Qian wakes up, she sees her mother and Gushun together. She angrily asks Gushun, what are you doing here? Her mother says, he came here early in the morning, brought breakfast for us, then helped me wash clothes, and now he is giving me a massage. Then they are eating, and during the meal, Yue Qian's mother asks about Gushun's mother. So, Gushun tells her about his mother, and Yue Qian's mother says, I know her, she was my school friend. She then takes her number. After eating, Gushun is washing the dishes. Yue Qian comes to him and asks, what are you doing? Just then, Yue Qian's mother comes and says, I am leaving. Yue Qian says, you should have stayed with me for a few days. Her mother says, I came to collect Grandpa's parcel and stayed to see you. Then she starts to leave. Gushun says, I'll drop you off. Then he goes to drop her off. In the next scene, both are sitting somewhere, and Yue Qian asks Gushun, why are you doing all this? But Gushun changes the topic and says, I heard that Jiang promoted you. Yue Qian says, yes. He says, he promoted you so that you won't leave his team and join ours, but you can still think about what you want to do. Then at night, when Yue Qian is going home, her things fall, and she bends down to pick them up. Just then, she feels like someone is following her. She runs to the elevator. When she is in the elevator, she feels like someone is coming up the stairs. So she runs to Gushun's house instead of going to her place and knocks on his door. When Gushun opens the door, Yue Qian hugs him. Gushun asks her, what happened? Yue Qian replies, someone is following me. Gushun goes outside and looks around but finds no one. Then they go to the security and check the cameras, but they don't find anything. Then they go to the police station to file a report. But since there was no attack on Yue Qian, the inspector doesn't file the report. The inspector scolds Gushun and says, "Your girlfriend is coming home so late. You should have gone to pick her up." Yue-chan is about to say, "He is not my boyfriend," but Gushun says, "It's my fault. I should have taken care of her." Then, while they are returning home from the police station, Gushun says to Yue-chan, "If you have any problem, call me immediately." That night, Yue-chan places many things in front of her door so that no one can open it. When she turns around after placing the items, her doorbell rings. She asks, "Who is it?" Gushun says, "It's me." She says, "Wait, I'm opening it." Then she starts removing the items one by one. When it takes too long and she doesn't open the door, Gushun breaks the door and comes inside, getting close to Yue-chan. Then he sees the items lying around and asks Yue-chan, "What is this?" Yue-chan says, "I placed these in front of the door because I was scared." Then Gushun hangs some of his clothes inside her house and says, "Now it will look like a guy also lives here." Yue-chan says, "That's a great idea." In the next scene, Gushun is standing below the building and starts suspecting the security guard. The next day, Gushun sees him again, and his suspicion turns into certainty. Then he calls Yue-chan and asks her to act. Yue-chan comes down to meet Gushun, and they act in front of the security guard. Gushun says to Yue-chan, "Stay at my place tonight, I am going out." Yue-chan says, "Okay." That night, the security guard turns off the building's lights and cameras and goes to Gushun's house. He starts looking for Yue-chan inside the house. Just then, Gushun catches him, and Yue-chan also arrives. Yue-chan starts hitting him, but Gushun says, "Don't hit him, go and call the police." Yue-chan calls the police. The police come and arrest him. Then they are at the police station. The police inspector says to them, "You both did a great job." When Gushun and Yue-chan are returning home, Gushun gets a call from Yue-chan's mother. Gushun has saved Yue-chan's mother's number as mother-in-law on his phone. As soon as Yue-chan sees the number, she realizes it's her mother's number. She picks up the call and starts talking. After the call ends, Yue-chan asks Gushun, "Why have you saved my mother's number as mother-in-law?" Gushun says, "How else should I save it? She is my future mother-in-law, so I saved her number as mother-in-law." After coming home, Gushun is in a lot of pain. Yue-chan massages him and says, "You shouldn't have fought with him like that. He could have hurt you." Gushun says, "I did all this for you." Then he closes her window and leaves. After he leaves, Yue-chan thinks about him. Does he really care about me? Then everyone is sitting and enjoying themselves. Just then, Sujung comes and starts talking to Yue-chan. Seeing this, Gushun feels very jealous. Then they play a game. During the game, Sujung is asked to call the girl he likes. Sujung is about to call Yue-chan, but Gushun takes his phone and says, "Your phone is very nice." Sujung asks for his phone back, but Gushun doesn't give it, and everyone else supports Gushun. The next day is Sujung's birthday, and Yue-chan also comes there. Sujung is very happy to see Yue-chan and says, "I knew you would definitely come to my birthday party." Yue-chan says, "I had to come." Seeing all this, Gushun feels very sad. Then Yue-chan gets her work checked by Gushun, and Gushun says, "This is very good work." Just then, a message comes from Yue-chan's other department saying, "There is an important meeting." Yue-chan quickly wraps up the conversation and goes to the other department. There, Jang introduces Yue-chan to a client. Jang says to Yue-chan, "You explain the details of our game to them." While Yue-chan is explaining the game details, she receives a call from Fan on her mobile, but she doesn't pick up because of Jiang. Then Yue-chan continues to explain all the details to the client, and it takes quite a while. After the meeting ends, Yue-chan remembers that Fan had called her. She quickly goes to Gushun's department. There, Fan says to her, "An important client came here, but since you were not here, we had to deal with him. We didn't know much about your work, but we managed with difficulty." Hearing all this, Yue-chan feels very bad. Outside, everyone is discussing that Yue-chan should focus on the work in this department. Then Fan comes and says to them, "Do your own work." Then Yue-chan meets Gushun and says, "This was all my fault, I should have stayed in this department." At night, Yue-chan receives a meeting message from Jiang's department, which says, "There is an important meeting tomorrow evening." Then she also receives a message from Gushun's department. They also say, "Our meeting is tomorrow evening." Yue-chan thinks, which department's meeting should I attend tomorrow? Then she thinks, I should leave one department, but she doesn't know which department to leave. The next day, Yue-chan is in the office thinking about which department to choose. Just then, Stella comes over and asks, "What's wrong?" Yue-chan tells her, "I have to choose a department, but I can't decide which one to choose." Stella says, "Choose the department you feel is right." So Yue-chan thinks, I should choose Gushun's department. Then she goes to talk to Jiang, but Jiang flatly refuses. The next day, she talks to Jiang again, and this time he agrees. Then Yue-chan takes her belongings and goes to Gushun's department. There, Gushun is already waiting for her. As soon as she arrives, he gives her a card, and seeing the card, Yue-chan is very happy. Then he picks up her belongings and takes them inside. When she goes inside, Sujung gives her flowers and welcomes her. Seeing all this, Gushun doesn't like it at all. When Yue Qian comes home, she sees that her house lock is broken. She calls her landlord and says, "My lock is broken." The landlord says, "You should call a locksmith to fix it." Yue Qian calls the repairman, but the call doesn't go through. Then she goes to Gushun's house and says, "My house lock is broken." Gushun comes and looks at her house lock and says, "It's really broken." Then Gushun says, "What will you do now?" Yue Qian says, "I'll go to a hotel, but my ID is inside the house." Gushun says, "If you don't mind, you can stay at my place tonight." Yue Qian agrees and goes to his house with him. Then Yue Qian goes inside Gushun's house and looks at his belongings. Gushun shows Yue Qian the room, and she goes into the room to freshen up. When she comes out, she sees that Gushun has arranged a movie and says, "Let's watch a movie together." Yue Qian asks, "Which movie will we watch?" Gushun says, "We will watch a horror movie." Then they start watching the movie. During the movie, Gushun keeps trying to get close to Yue Qian. Yue Qian is very scared. Gushun says, "If you're scared, you can come and sit next to me." Yue Qian doesn't go to him at first, but later, she gets very scared and goes to sit next to Gushun. Then Yue Qian's mobile, which is under the sofa, starts vibrating. Yue Qian asks Gushun, "Does your sofa give massages too?" Suddenly, due to a strong wind, the curtain falls on Yue Qian's face. Yue Qian gets scared and starts screaming. Gushun removes the curtain from her face. During this, they get close to each other. Yue Qian says, "I'm feeling sleepy," and goes to sleep. After she leaves, Su Jing calls Yue Qian's mobile, and Gushun picks it up and says, "Yue Qian is in the room." Su Jing asks, "What are you doing there at this time?" Gushun says, "We are staying together tonight," and cuts the call. This makes Su Jing very jealous. The next morning, when Yue Qian wakes up, she sees that Gushun has made breakfast for her. Seeing this, Yue Qian is very happy. Then Gushun gives her a gift, which contains new clothes. Yue Qian smiles and says, "There was no need to do all this." Gushun says, "I brought this for you." Yue Qian thanks him. Then they both drink coffee. In the next scene, Yue Qian is in the office working with Xinyi. Gushun is watching her while she works. Just then, Su Jing comes and takes Yue Qian to the meeting room. Seeing this, Gushun doesn't like it at all. In the meeting room, Su Jing and Yue Qian are laughing and talking. Then Gushun follows them and stands outside watching them. He feels very jealous. When Yue Qian comes out of the meeting room, Gushun comes to her and asks, "What were you talking about in there that made you laugh so much?" Yue Qian says, "We were talking about work." Gushun says, "You never laughed like that with me." Then he also says, "Next time you feel like talking like that, talk to me." Hearing this, Yue Qian leaves. After she goes, Gushun is smiling. In the next scene, Yue Qian is talking to her mother. Her mother says, "I have fixed you up with a boy and you need to go there." Yue Qian refuses at first, but when she finds out that the boy is Gushun, she agrees. On the other hand, Gushun's mother also says to him, "I have arranged a date with a girl for you and you need to go there." Gushun flatly refuses. Then Gushun's mother says, "That girl works in your company." Gushun still refuses. His mother then says, "I have arranged everything for you, you just need to be there on time." On the other side, Yue Qian gets ready and goes to the place, waiting for Gushun. After a long time, she thinks about calling Gushun, but then stops and waits. Meanwhile, Gushun is at his office discussing the game promo release with Jun. When everyone leaves the office, Gushun goes outside and sees that he is the only one left. He then goes to Yue Qian's desk and finds a note. Reading the note, he realizes that the girl his mother fixed his date with is Yue Qian. Gushun calls his mother to confirm, and she tells him yes, that girl is Yue Qian. Then his mother asks, "Haven't you gone yet?" Gushun says, "I'm just leaving, on my way." He rushes to meet Yue Qian, but can't reach there due to traffic jam. Gushun then returns home and waits for Yue Qian. When Yue Qian arrives, Gushun tries to explain, but Yue Qian refuses to listen and leaves. Yue Qian tries to open her house door and realizes that the lock is broken again. Yue Qian angrily says, "I will have to call someone to fix my lock." Gushun says, "It's too late now, no one will come, stay at my place." But Yue Qian refuses and says, "I want to stay at my house." Yue Qian angrily starts to fix the lock herself. Gushun says, "This won't get fixed like this." But Yue Qian, in her anger, hits the lock. She calls a locksmith and says, "Come quickly and fix my lock." The locksmith refuses at first, but Yue Qian says, "I will pay you extra. Just come quickly and fix my lock." The locksmith agrees and gets ready to come. When the locksmith is fixing the lock, Yue Qian is very angry. Gushun tries to calm her down, but Yue Qian doesn't listen and is very angry at him. When the locksmith opens the door, Yue Qian goes inside. Gushun tries to explain, but the locksmith pushes him inside and says, "I have to fix the lock, and you both keep talking." Gushun continues trying to calm Yue Qian down inside, but she doesn't listen. The locksmith says from outside, "I have fixed the lock. Now I'm leaving. Send me my payment online." After he leaves, Yue-chan tells Gushun to leave. But as soon as Yue-chan checks the door, she finds that the lock is broken again. She calls the locksmith again and tells him to fix the lock. But the locksmith says, "I won't come now. I will fix it in the morning." Seeing all this, Gushun can't hide his happiness. But Yue-chan is very angry. Gushun tries to talk to her, but Yue-chan gets up and starts to leave. Gushun follows her and accidentally falls. Yue-chan thinks Gushun is kneeling down to apologize. Yue-chan says, "Get up, I have forgiven you." Gushun says, "My mom told me she was sending me on a date with someone, but she didn't tell me it was you. If I had known it was you, I would have come earlier. When I found out, I was coming to see you, but I couldn't make it because of the traffic." Yue-chan says, "All right," and gets a bit emotional. Gushun asks, "What happened?" Yue-chan says nothing, and then she goes to sleep. The next morning, when Yue-chan wakes up, she sees Gushun sleeping on the sofa. She quietly says to herself, "How can anyone be so cute?" Just then, Gushun wakes up, and they look at each other. At that moment, the locksmith arrives and says, "I have fixed the lock." Seeing them together, the locksmith thinks something but leaves without saying anything. After the lock is fixed, Yue-chan tries to get up, but her hair gets stuck in the corner of the sofa. Gushun helps her with her hair, and Yue-chan watches him. Just then, Gushun gets a call. He listens to the call, and Yue-chan leaves. In the next scene, the game promo is released and everyone is present there. Reporters are also there, and Jiang and his team are also present. Jiang and his team are not happy, but Gushun and his team are very happy. Then the game gets an award. Yue-chan receives an award for the best character, and Gushun gets an award for the game. This makes Gushun and his team even happier, but Jiang and his team don't like this. After this, Gushun and Yue-chan are being interviewed. At that time, two girls are standing nearby talking about Gushun. They say, "He is very handsome, we should talk to him." Yue-chan hears them and goes to them saying, "If you want to say something to Gushun, tell me." But the girls say, "No, why should we tell you?" and leave. After the interview ends, Gushun comes to Yue-chan. Then they are standing somewhere. Just then, a girl comes and asks Yue-chan, "Do you want to take a love test?" Yue-chan says, "Yes, I want to take a love test." Just then, Soo-jung also arrives. Yue-chan takes the love test, and it says that she is going to meet her true love very soon. Hearing this, Gushun and Soo-jung look at each other, but Yue-chan steps back and says, "Let's leave now." Then Gushun comes home with Yue-chan. At that time, Yue-chan says, "I am going to meet my true love." Gushun says to her, "These games are fake, you shouldn't believe them." Then Gushun says to Yue-chan, "You go upstairs, I will bring noodles and we'll have them together." When Yue-chan is going to Gushun's house, she gets a surprise on the way. Seeing all this, Yue-chan thinks, Gushun must have done all this and wants to confess his love to me. Then she sees Soo-jung there and gets shocked. Soo-jung confesses his love to her. Yue-chan says to him, "We can't date each other because I don't like you." Soo-jung feels sad and says, "If you want, we can remain friends." Yue-chan accepts his offer, and they shake hands. Gushun also sees this and leaves feeling sad. Yue-chan sees Gushun leaving. Then she reaches home and says, "You said we would have noodles together, so I brought the noodles." Then they are eating noodles, and Yue-chan says, "The love test I took was right. Someone proposed to me." Gushun says, "Soo-jung is not your true love." Then Yue-chan starts looking at Gushun. Gushun asks, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Yue-chan says, "I am looking at my true love." Hearing this, Gushun becomes happy and starts smiling. The next day, Gushun is working in the office. He asks Jun to work, but Jun says, "Today's horoscope says I shouldn't work, so I won't work today." Then Jun looks at Gushun's horoscope and says, "Today's horoscope for you says you should confess your love." Saying that, he leaves. After he leaves, Gushun thinks about whether he should confess his love to Yue-chan or not. Then he decides, "Today, I will confess my love to Yue-chan." At night, Gushun and Yue-chan are coming home together. Yue-chan says, "People are saying very good things about our game. We should celebrate this." Gushun says, "Okay, you go to my place and order food. We will celebrate it." Yue-chan says, "We should go out somewhere." Gushun says, "No, if you go to my place, you will know." Then Yue-chan goes to his place. Yue-chan is standing outside his place thinking about whether Gushun is going to confess his love to her. Then she goes inside, but nothing happens there. Meanwhile, Jun calls Gushun and tells him, "A big problem has occurred. One of our game's characters is under copyright. You need to come to the office immediately. There's a big issue." Gushun says, "How can this happen? I'm coming to the office." Then he calls Yue-chan and tells her that there's a problem at the office, so he needs to go there. Yue-chan says, "I'll come with you." But Gushun says, "No, I'll handle it myself." Then he leaves. Gushun meets Stella in the office. Stella says, "A copyright claim has been filed against one of our game's characters." Gushun says, "How can that be?" Stella says, "You need to do something, or we'll have to shut down the game." Gushun says, "HC Company also launched their game on the same day we did, so how can there be a copyright claim? Maybe they are trying to trap us." Stella says, I understand, but you need to solve this problem. If you can't solve it, your game will be shut down. Yu becomes very worried. She tries to call Gushun, but the call doesn't go through. Just then, she goes outside to throw out the trash. As soon as she opens the door, Gushun is standing there. Gushun says to Yu, "A copyright claim has been filed against one of my game's characters. If we don't solve it, my game will be shut down." Yue-chen hugs Gushun and says, "The problem will be solved. Don't worry." Then they both look at the sketches of the character at Gushun's house. Yue-chen asks who made these sketches and how there can be a copyright claim on them. Gushun says, "My dad made these." Yue-chen says, "Then make your dad a witness." Gushun says, "My dad has passed away." Yue-chen says, "I didn't know that, but what should we do now?" In the next scene, Gushun is called to the office, where the board of directors is also present. They say to Gushun, "A copyright claim has been filed against one of your game's characters, and now we have to shut down the game. We will also have to shut down your department." Gushun replies, "This hasn't been proven yet, so how can you do this? Give me time, and I will prove it." They give him 3 days and say, "You have only 3 days to prove yourself." Gushun says, "Okay." At this time, Yue-chen is reading the agreement that mentions the copyright. Just then, she receives a message from Gushun saying, "I'm going home, don't worry." Yue-chen becomes very worried and thinks, "We worked so hard for this game, and if it gets shut down, what will happen?" Then Yue-chen goes to the other workers and says, "Don't worry, Gushun will surely find a solution." Yue-chen goes to Gushun's house, but finds out that he is not there. She asks the security guard, who tells her that Gushun has taken his belongings and left. Yue-chen asks, "Where did he go?" The security guard says, "I don't know where he went." Then Yue-chen calls Gushun's friends, but they also don't know where he is. Yue-chen then goes to Gushun's hometown to find him. When she gets there, she finds Gushun. Yue-chen goes to him and scolds him, saying, "How can you do this? Why did you come here?" Just then, Gushun turns around and sees that he has headphones on. Gushun asks Yue-chen, "What are you doing here?" Yue-chen says, "I came here to find you." Gushun asks, "What were you saying just now?" Yue-chen says, "I was scolding you." Then Gushun says to Yue-chen, "I missed you a lot." He then confesses his love to Yue-chen. He says, "That night I was going to confess my love to you, but I couldn't because of the problem. They are about to kiss when some kids nearby see them and say, 'They are kissing.'" Hearing this, they step back. Yue-chen says, "You said you would never like me, so why are you saying all this now?" Gushun smiles and replies, "At that time, I didn't know that Sticky Dog was you. I liked Sticky Dog, and now that I know Sticky Dog is you, I like you." They then hug each other and officially become boyfriend and girlfriend. Then, while they walk and talk, an aunt approaches them and says to Gushun, "Did you bring your girlfriend here?" Gushun holds Yue-chen's hand and says, "Yes, she is my girlfriend." The aunt says, "You have a very nice girlfriend." Hearing this, Yue-chen feels very happy and thinks, "Now I am officially Gushun's girlfriend." Then Yue-chen asks Gushun, "What should we do next?" Gushun says, "We should go to Dad's studio where he started making his game. Maybe we can find some proof there." Yue-chen says, "All right, let's go there." Then Gushun and Yue-chen go to Gushun's dad's game studio. They try very hard to find proof but don't find anything. After that, they go to one of Gushun's dad's friends and ask, "Do you have any of Dad's stuff? We want to see it." Gushun's dad's friend gives them some things, including Gushun's dad's laptop and some documents. Gushun looks at those things, hoping to find proof, but finds nothing. Then Gushun puts the laptop and other things in the car, and they both sit in the car. Yue-chen asks, "What will we do now?" Gushun kisses her and says, "Do you have your ID? Let's go to a hotel." Yue-chen misunderstands him and says, "I didn't think you would suggest going to a hotel out of irritation." Gushun says, "We have to work here, so where will we stay? In a hotel, right?" Yue-chen understands and says, "All right." Then they go to a hotel and get separate rooms for themselves. Gushun says to Yue-chen, "Freshen up and come to my room." Yue-chen says, "Why your room?" Gushun smiles and says, "So we can work together." Then Yue-chen is in her room remembering the kiss. Gushun is also remembering the kiss. Then Yue-chen freshens up and goes to Gushun's room, but both feel a bit nervous because they are remembering the kiss. Then Gushun asks Yue-chen, "Why are you so quiet?" Yue-chen says, "Nothing." Then they start working and check Gushun's dad's laptop. In one of the documents, they find that Gushun's dad had sold the character a long time ago. Seeing this, Gushun feels very sad and starts crying. Gushun says, "My dad made this character for me, so how could he sell it?" Yue-chen tries to console him, but Gushun remains very upset. Just then, Yue-chen notices another app on Gushun's dad's laptop. Yue-chen asks, "What is this app?" Gushun says, "My dad and I used to talk to each other through this app." Gushun opens the app, and there are many messages sent by Gushun's dad. Gushun remembers that he never read those messages. Gushun reads the messages, and in one of them, his dad had written, "I sold this character." Seeing this, Gushun cries even more. Gushun says, "Now nothing is left. My game will be shut down." The next day, Stella and the board of directors are having a meeting about shutting down the game. Just then, Gushun comes and gives them the document. Gushun says, "The character on which the copyright claim has been filed is mine and was created by my dad. I am the rightful owner of that character." Then we see a flashback where Gushun is reading his dad's messages. In the following messages, it says, "I sold this character, but the company was not using it, so I got it back from them, and now this character belongs only to you." Reading this, Gushun feels very happy and cries, remembering and missing his dad. Then Stella says to Gushun, "Now your game won't be shut down." Here, Yue-chan tells everyone that the rightful owner of the character with the copyright claim is Gushun. Hearing this, everyone feels very happy. In the next scene, Yue-chan comes to Gushun's office to deliver documents. She sees Gushun sleeping on the sofa. Yue-chan goes near him and starts looking at him. Just then, Gushun wakes up. Seeing Gushun awake, Yue-chan starts to leave, but Gushun holds her hand and makes her sit next to him. Gushun is about to kiss Yue-chan, but just then, Wei arrives. Yue-chan leaves. After Yue-chan leaves, Gushun starts hitting Wei. In the next scene, Shinyi brings gifts for single people, and Yue-chan takes a gift from her. Gushun sees this and leaves angrily. Yue-chan follows him and says, "I wanted this gift, so I lied." Gushun says, "You lied just for a gift," and Yue-chan says, "We won't tell anyone that we are boyfriend and girlfriend yet." Then they talk and go to have coffee together. Just then, Gushun holds Yue-chan's hand. Yue-chan tries to free her hand. Gushun says, "You should tell everyone that we are in a relationship." Yue-chan says, "We will tell everyone later." Then Yue-chan asks him to let go of her hand and says, "Someone will see us." Gushun puts her hand in his pocket and says, "Do you want another girl to hit on me?" Yue-chan says, "I know if another girl hits on you, you will ignore her. I know you." Then they are talking and Yue-chan's friend arrives. Her friend sees them and asks, "What are you both doing here?" Yue-chan says, "Gushun came to get coffee for everyone, so I came to help him." Her friend says, "Get a coffee for me too." Gushun thinks, "How much will the bill be for so many coffees?" Then they are returning to the office with the coffee. Yue-chan is carrying more coffees and says to Gushun, "You should carry some too." Gushun says, "I am the boss, and bosses don't carry things." Hearing this, Yue-chan quietly moves forward. Then Gushun takes all the bags from her hand and holds her hand, and they go together. Then they work in the office and secretly look at each other. Yue-chan tells her friends that they are in a relationship. After knowing this, her friends start calling her. Yue-chan goes aside to answer the calls. Just then, Gushun arrives and Yue-chan quickly ends her call. Gushun tries to hug Yue-chan, but just as he is about to, Jang arrives. Yue-chan quickly goes to Jang and asks, "What are you doing here?" Seeing this, Gushun leaves. At night, Gushun is waiting for Yue-chan's message. On the other side, Yue-chan is also thinking about replying to Gushun's message, but just then, Yue-chan's friend calls her, and she picks up the call. Yue-chan's friend says, "I thought you would be busy with your boyfriend and wouldn't reply to my call, but you picked up my call." Yue-chan says to her friend, "So what, I just picked up the call?" Then they are talking. Just then, there is a knock on the door. Yue-chan opens the door, and Gushun is outside, talking on the phone. Her friend says, "It seems your Gushun has arrived." Gushun also hears this, so Yue-chan ends her call. Gushun says, "How did your friend know that I have arrived?" Then Yue-chan takes Gushun inside. Gushun is about to kiss her, but just then, he sneezes. Gushun says, "Can I get a dryer? Mine is broken." Yue-chan says, "I'll get it." Then Yue-chan goes to get the dryer and Gushun follows her inside. Yue-chan brings the dryer and starts drying Gushun's hair herself. Then Yue-chan says to Gushun, "Sit down." Gushun sits down, and Yue-chan starts drying his hair. Then Gushun takes Yue-chan's phone and shares his home password and some personal things on it. Then Yue-chan also takes Gushun's mobile and shares her password with him. Then Gushun gets close to Yue-chan and says, "You know, I like you a lot." Hearing this, Yue-chan becomes happy and hugs Gushun. Then they kiss each other. In the next scene, everyone is sitting together and eating. Jun says, "Today's treat is on me." Everyone becomes happy, and then everyone talks about their partners. Gushun also says, "I have a girlfriend too." Hearing this, everyone asks, "Who is your girlfriend?" But Gushun doesn't tell her name. Just then, Yue-chan also arrives. Everyone asks her, "Do you know who Gushun's girlfriend is?" Yue-chan pretends as if she doesn't know anything. Gushun's friends say, "Show us her photo." At first, Gushun says he will show it, so Yue-chan thinks, "He has my photo too." Then Gushun says, "I won't show you my girlfriend's photo." Then everyone leaves. After they leave, Yue-chan asks, "Do you have my photo?" Gushun takes a selfie with Yue-chan and says, "Here is my girlfriend's photo." In the next scene, Yue-chan is in the office, and Soo-jung comes to talk to her. Gushun feels jealous seeing this. So he sends Soo-jung on an errand and then gives Yue-chan a file and says, "This is a very important file, take a look at it." Then he leaves. After he leaves, Yue-chan opens the file, and on the first page, it says, "I brought a lot of things for you. They are in the first drawer. Eat them whenever you feel like it." She opens the second page and it says, "There are drinks for you in the second drawer of the desk. Take them and enjoy whenever you feel like it." Yue-chen starts smiling after reading it, and Gu-shun smiles at Yue-chen from afar. Then Yue-chen opens the next page and it says, "I got a new coffee cup for you, go see it." Yue-chen goes to see the coffee cup. When she sees it, she likes it very much. Just then, Gu-shun arrives and they start making coffee together. While making coffee, they are getting closer to each other. Then Fan comes in and they move away from each other saying, "We are making coffee." After Fan leaves, they start making coffee again and hold each other's fingers. In the next scene, one of Yue-chan's friends gifts her a dress. At first, Yue-chan refuses to take it, but on her friend's insistence, she takes it. Then Gu-shun goes to meet Yue-chan because his charger is broken. When Yue-chan puts the dress on the sofa, Gu-shun arrives and sees the dress. Gu-shun says, "This dress will look very good on you." Yue-chan blushes and says, "It's just a gift from my friend. You keep it." Gu-shun says, "What will I do with it?" and leaves. Then Yue-chan goes to work on her laptop but remembers that she left her laptop at the office. She calls Gu-shun and says, "I need to work, but my laptop is at the office. Can I use your laptop?" Gu-shun says, "My laptop is at home. Go there and work." Yue-chan goes to his house and starts working on his laptop. When Yue-chan finishes her work, she starts making coffee for herself. Just then, she thinks Gu-shun has arrived, but when she turns around, she sees Gu-shun's mother. Yue-chan gets a bit nervous and asks, "Who are you?" Gu-shun's mother says, "I am Gu-shun's mother." Yue-chan blushes and says, "I thought it was Gu-shun." Gu-shun's mother says, "You don't need to be so shy. I am very open-minded." Yue-chan smiles slightly and says, "I will bring you such a dress too." Gu-shun's mother says, "Get a bigger size for me." Yue-chan says, "Okay." Then they add each other on WeChat. Gu-shun's mother tries to give her money, but Yue-chan refuses and says, "I don't need money." Then Yue-chan makes tea for herself and Gu-shun's mother, and they both drink tea. Just then, Gu-shun arrives and feels very happy seeing them together. Then Yue-chan gets up and says, "I should go." But Gu-shun's mother says, "No, how can you leave? You should have a meal with us. I have brought food." Yue-chan says, "All right, I will go change." Then Yue-chan goes to change. After she leaves, Gu-shun asks his mother, "How do you like Yue-chan?" Gu-shun's mother says, "She is a very nice girl." Then Gu-shun quickly starts hiding his game papers and related things because his mother doesn't like him working in the gaming department. Then Gu-shun goes to Yue-chan and asks, "What did you and my mother talk about?" Yue-chan says, "Don't come in. I am still changing." When Yue-chan comes out after changing, Gu-shun asks again, "What did you and my mother talk about?" Yue-chan says, "Nothing special, just normal stuff." Then Gu-shun tells Yue-chan, "My mother doesn't like the gaming department. I don't want to tell her that I work in the games department. I have told her that I work in an IT company." Yue-chan agrees to support him. When they get back home, Gu-shun's mother finds out that he works in the gaming department. Gu-shun's mother gets very angry and says, "You have to choose between your mother and your job." Gu-shun tries to explain, but his mother doesn't listen and leaves angrily. After that, Yue-chan comforts Gu-shun and says, "It's all right, your mother will understand. I'm with you. Just apologize to her, she will surely forgive you." In the next scene, Yue-chan messages Gu-shun and asks, "Did you talk to your mother?" Gu-shun replies, "No, I haven't talked to her." Yue-chan says, "I ordered some food, let's eat together." But Gu-shun says, "No, I don't want to eat, you eat." Then Yue-chan messages Gu-shun's mother and says, "Gu-shun broke up with me." Yue-chan thinks, when Gu-shun's mother comes to meet me, she will meet Gu-shun and they will talk and understand each other. Gu-shun will apologize to her, and she will forgive him, and their misunderstanding will be cleared. The next day, Gu-shun's mother goes to meet Yue-chan at her house. Yue-chan messes up her hair a bit and then meets Gu-shun's mother. Yue-chan says, "Gu-shun broke up with me," and Gu-shun's mother asks, "Why did he break up with you?" Yue-chan says, "Gu-shun made me eat noodles, and I don't like noodles, so I had stomach problems. When I told Gu-shun, he argued with me and broke up with me." But Gu-shun's mother notices noodle packets there and understands that there is something else. When she starts to leave, Yue-chan says, "Since you are here, let's talk about it." Just then, Gu-shun arrives and says, "Mom, I want to show you something." Gu-shun takes his mother and Yue-chan to his house and shows them a diary that belongs to his dad, where his dad had mentioned that Gu-shun should go into the gaming department. Seeing all this, Gu-shun's mother becomes emotional. Gu-shun says, "Mom, I request you to let me work in the gaming department." Yue-chan also tries to explain to Gu-shun's mother and says, "I support Gu-shun, but Gu Shun's mother doesn't agree and leaves angrily. After they leave, Yue Qian says, "Your mom will soon come around, you'll see. Hold on." Gu Shun says with sadness, "Mom doesn't give in so easily. She has a bit of a strict nature." Then Gu Shun says to Yue Qian, "Thanks for everything you've done for me." Then he hugs Yue Qian. At night, Yue Qian and Gu Shun sit on the sofa and watch a drama together. But Gu Shun stops watching the drama and starts looking at Yue Qian. Yue Qian, a bit flustered, says, "Why are you looking at me? Watch the drama." With a smile, Gu Shun says, "I don't feel like watching the drama. I just want to look at you." Hearing this, Yue Qian gets a bit confused and says, "You've lost your mind," and gets up and leaves. Then Yue Qian goes to the bathroom, but on the bathroom mirror, Gu Shun has written "I like you" for Yue Qian. Seeing this, Yue Qian becomes very happy. In the next scene, both of them are in the office parking lot. After parking their car while heading to the office, Gu Shun says, "We are forgetting something." Just then, the security guard comes and says, "You two forgot to hold hands." Saying this, he departs. Hearing this, they get a bit embarrassed. Then they hold each other's hands. At that moment, Sujung comes and sees them. Then Sujung says to them, "All the best," and leaves. After Sujung leaves, Gu Shun and Yue Qian head towards the office. Yue Qian's colleagues see them and stop talking upon seeing them. Gu Shun and Yue Qian also notice them and start walking separately. When they get close to those colleagues, the colleagues say, "We know you two are dating each other." They explain, "We saw you together in the office and we figured it out." Saying this, they leave. After they leave, Gu Shun comes to Yue Qian and says, "Were you trying to hide?" Everyone knows it. Then they hug each other. Then Gu Shun and Yue Qian go to the railway station because Yue Qian is going to her hometown. Gu Shun brings many snacks for her. Then Yue Qian opens a lollipop and puts it in Gu Shun's mouth while she eats one herself. Gu Shun says, "Give me your home address. I will send gifts to your place on New Year's Day." Yue Qian gives him her home address. Then Yue Qian goes to her hometown. She calls her mother and tells her that she and Gu Shun are officially boyfriend and girlfriend now. Hearing this, her mother becomes very happy and says, "I want you two always to be together." Then Gu Shun calls Yue Qian and says, "I thought you were online, so I messaged you. Let's play a game." Yue Qian discovers it was her cousin and that he added Gu Shun to the family group. Yue Qian says, "He added you to the family group, don't message there." Then Yue Qian opens the group and sees her aunt asking Gu Shun questions about him. Gu Shun answers them and the family members are impressed by him. Seeing this, Yue Qian becomes very happy. Then New Year's Day arrives. Yue Qian is still sleeping, and her mother comes and scolds her. "Today is New Year's Day, and you're still sleeping?" Mother says, "Get up quickly." Yue Qian says, "All right, I'm waking up." Then she calls Gu Shun and says, "You said you would send me gifts on New Year's, but they haven't arrived yet." Gu Shun says, "Your gifts are outside the door. Come and receive them." Hearing this, Yue Qian realizes Gu Shun is outside. She quickly heads outside, but is stopped and asked, "Where are you going in such clothes?" Yue Qian says, "My boyfriend is here." Hearing this, Yue Qian's mother becomes very happy, but the father says, "I'll take his test." Then Yue Qian opens the door and asks Gu Shun, "What are you doing here?" Gu Shun says, "I came to meet Mom, so I thought I would meet you too." Yue Qian says, "Good thing you came." Gu Shun asks, "Will your parents mind?" Yue Qian says, "Mom is very happy, but I don't know about Dad." Hearing this, Gu Shun gets a bit anxious. Seeing this, Yue Qian starts laughing, and Gu Shun also laughs and comes inside. Yue Qian's mother is very happy to see Gu Shun, and Gu Shun gives her the gifts he brought for them. Then Yue Qian's dad says, "You came here without informing us. You should have told us." Gu Shun feels very awkward, so Yue Qian's mother takes him away. Then they are eating, but there is nothing on the table. Yue Qian and her family act as if there is a lot of food, pretending to eat. Gu Shun also pretends to eat with them. Then Yue Qian's dad asks Gu Shun questions, and Gu Shun answers them, but Yue Qian's dad is not impressed. Then he asks Gu Shun another question, "How will you treat Yue Qian?" Gu Shun takes out his wallet, car keys, and house documents, places them in front of Yue Qian's dad and says, "All of this belongs to Yue Qian." Then he makes a heart with his fingers, looks at Yue Qian and says, "My heart is also yours." Hearing this, Yue Qian becomes happy. At night, Gu Shun is getting ready to sleep when Yue Qian comes to him and gives him a blanket. As she is about to leave, Gu Shun holds her shirt from behind and stops her saying, "Were you saying something?" Yue Qian says, "What?" Then he kisses her and says, "Now you can go." The next morning, Gu Shun wakes up and sees Yue Qian's dad sitting in front of him. He quickly sits up. Yue Qian's dad says, "It's so late and you're just waking up?" Then he asks him to make breakfast. So Gu Shun makes breakfast for everyone. When he sets the breakfast on the table, Yue Qian's dad says, "This bulb is broken." Gu Shun fixes it. Then Yue Qian's mother says, "This chair is also broken." So Gu Shun fixes it too. Seeing this, Yue Qian's mother becomes happy. Yue Qian's dad says to Gu Shun, "There is a water leak in the bathroom." So Gu Shun goes to fix it. After he leaves, Yue Qian's parents are happy. When Gu Xun returns, Yue Qian says to her mother, "You need to fix the bedsheet in my room." Her mother says, "I forgot about that." As she is about to fix the bedsheet, Gu Xun stops her and says, "I'll fix it." Then he fixes the bedsheet. Yue Qian comes to him and says, "You did a lot of work today." Then he goes out with Yue Qian's dad, where they buy her favorite things, and Gu Xun explains everything. Then they return home. They give the things to Yue Qian's mother, who says, "I'm going to cook." Gu Xun says, "No, you can rest." Yue Qian's dad says, "No, we will cook." Then they call Yue Qian and say, "You two should spend time together." Then her parents start to leave. Yue Qian asks her parents, "Did Gu Xun pass your test?" Her dad says, "Yes." Then Yue Qian asks Gu Xun, "What did you say to dad that he agreed?" Gu Xun says, "I didn't say anything." Then they kiss each other. Then we see a scene 1 year later, where Gu Xun and Yue Qian have thrown a party to celebrate selling 10 million copies of their game. When Gu Xun and Yue Qian enter, everyone welcomes them warmly. Then Gu Xun thanks everyone, saying, "Because of everyone's hard work, we have sold 10 million copies of the game today." Then they are in the office, very happy that their dream has come true. They hold each other's hands. Yue Qian says, "This feels like a dream." Gu Xun says, "Yes, it feels like a dream." And with that, the drama has a happy ending. How much rating would you give this drama? And which was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos.